15 stripes. Vermont and Kentucky are the bottom two. You all listening to me? Okay, good. However, by 1812, when we declared war on England, rightly so, there were actually 18 states. Tennessee, Ohio, and Louisiana had all been admitted by 1812. But for whatever reason, Congress never got around to adding those 3 extra states to the flag. Because they were busy. So although we have 15 stars and stripes, there were actually 18 states at the time of the War of 1812. Right after the war, as the country now begins expanding westward, 2 more states come in, Indiana and Mississippi. If you had served in the War of 1812 in the naval militia, the army, or whatever branches of the federal or state government, you could receive upwards of 360 acres of land. And that land was yours out in the west, the territory of Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan. So after the war now, as the people start moving west, more states are coming in. And as more states coming in, the flag is going to get bigger. And that's why my friends and neighbors, we have Congress to figure this difficult stuff out. So in 1818, Congress comes up with this idea. Let's go back to 13 stripes for the 13 original states. And so from 1818 until today, whenever a new state is admitted to the Union, the first flag is flown at Fort McHenry 1 minute after midnight on July the 4th before it's flown anywhere else in the country. Such is the case of Alaska and Hawaii, 1959, 1960. 1 minute after midnight, the new flag is raised up over the fort before it's raised anywhere else. Fort McHenry also remains the only site in America that is allowed to fly the flag by presidential proclamation, to fly the flag 24 hours a day, regardless of weather. As long as it's illuminated at night. There's only 5 sites. Fort McHenry. I know more. I know. Fort McHenry, the Iwo Jima Memorial, Marine Corps, Arlington Cemetery. No, surprisingly no. The Washington Monument, D.C. George still has it. All U.S. ports of entry and the White House. Those are what we call the 5 presidential sites. Now, there are other sites that may do it by Congress, but this one's done by the president. So the flag flies at Fort McHenry day and night as a reminder of what happened here over 200 years ago. And this site here, Todd's Heritage, is a very important site. To me it is, because when we talk about the battle for Baltimore, this is where the battle begins. The moment the British land at here, they march along this road, defeat an American army at North Point, or go on to the outskirts of Baltimore, and that's where they would be stopped. After the failed attempt to take Baltimore, the British Army again marched back down this road and get back on their ships and sailed away. So this, to me, is a very important site because it serves as the beginning and the end story of the Battle for Baltimore campaign. Now, where's the story of this? The key is this. This is new stuff coming up to you right now. New research. August 19th, 1814, 50 British warships sail up the Patuxent River. They land 5,000 British troops at Benedict, Maryland. They marched 50 miles towards the capital of Washington. They defeated the American army twice their size at Bladensburg, which is right next to
Anacostia. What's that place you get all your drinks from?
Starbucks.
Starbucks, yeah. Defeated the American army twice their size. They entered the nation's capital and tortured. Most of the damage is done by the Americans, by the way. The Americans are responsible for most of the fires that occurred in Washington, except for the White House, the Capitol, and the Treasury, and the Daily Intelligencer, the newspaper in Washington. The rest of it was fired up by the Americans as they retreated. The fire was so intense, the soldiers at Fort McHenry and the citizens on their rooftops could see the glow of Washington burning that night. And they knew that Baltimore would be next. So upwards of 20,000 militia from western Pennsylvania, western Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, all marching into Baltimore to help save the city. They couldn't save Washington, but maybe they could save Baltimore. So while all this is going on, there's an American flag of truce vessel out in the Chesapeake Bay. Francis Scott Key, a young lawyer friend from Georgetown, has been sent out to secure the release of a friend of his, Dr. William Beans of Upper Marlborough. Beans is taken prisoner by the retreating British Army. He had, along with 3 other gentlemen, caused the imprisonment of 3 British stragglers, one of which was not this gentleman down here on the corner. General Robert Moss, who had used Dr. Bean's house as a place to rest that night, thought this had Dr. Beans arrested. And so he was taken aboard a small British warship out in the bay, and as the British now are sailing up towards Baltimore, Key is held captive on a small American flag of truce vessel. That flag truce vessel name is now known. It is the Stephen Decatur, part of the Washington, the Ferguson brothers steamboat land out of Fells Point. When the British landed at North Point, Key vessel, the flag of truce vessel, was here. But here's the important thing: is this how we figured this out? As the British Army is marching along, if you don't know where that was, ask Ed. He was there marching along with them. As the British are marching along this road, the Admiral needs to be in touch with the British Army. So he gets on his small British warship, a frigate. He has Dr. Beans and Francis Scott Key on that ship with him, because Key is not the important person here. Who is the important person is Colonel John Skinner. He's the official American agent for the U.S. Department of State. If anything's going to happen, Cochrane, the Admiral, is going to have this guy to talk to about Baltimore surrender and all that other stuff. So he's keeping Key, but he's keeping Skinner close to him in case something happens. So as the British Army march up the North Point Road, he is following alongside up the Patapsco River, keeping in touch with the British Army. So as the Admiral goes up, right behind him, he's towing the small American flagship. So Key's vessel, the flag of truce vessel, starts here, and then it stops at Bear Creek while the Battle of North Point is going on, and then they continue all the way up to Colgate Creek, which is only about 2 miles from Fort McHenry. And that's where Key witnessed the bombardment and the flag being raised up over the fort that night. He's not 8 miles away, he's only 2 miles away. And so that ship is the Stephen Decatur. And that ship went on to service for many years afterwards. Right after the battle, at 4:30 that morning, September the 14th, the American guns had stopped firing. At 7:30 that morning, the British stopped firing, and at 9 o'clock a.m., precisely, the Admiral Cochrane gives the order for the British Navy to hoist sail and sail down the river. And the Battle of Baltimore is over. It's at that moment, at 9 a.m., the American flag is brought out from the guardhouse. and to the tune of 4 fifers and 4 drummers, the flag is raised up over the fort to the tune of our national song, the Yankee Doodle. And it's at that moment the key sees the flag from the cruise ship only 2 miles away from the fort. And it's at that moment he begins to compose those 4 stanzas. 2 days later, Key's allowed to come back to Baltimore. The song is immediately put to print in broadsides, which I bought facsimile copies for all of you to read. And within 3 weeks, it had been published on the front page of local papers. By Christmas of 1814, every newspaper in the 18 states had published it on the front page. The song went viral, #1 on the charts. By Christmas time, everybody knew the story of the flag and the song and the key. And now, for the first time, I sincerely believe this, for the first time people begin to look at the flag in a way they've never looked at it before. And the Revolutionary War, and even the War of 1812, the flag that was carried by the militia and the federal troops was not the U.S., what we think of as the U.S. flag, but the regimental flags and the company flags. These were made by officers' wives. These were very special. But now with the emblem of this flag in black and white in print on newspapers, and now you start seeing it on posts and dishes and stuff later on. People begin to look at this now as the new national symbol. And that's why during the Mexican War, it would be carried by the U.S. Army officially for the first time. It's not to say this wasn't carried in the War of 1812 or maybe even the Revolutionary War, but they didn't think of it as we think of it today. So it became extremely popular in the years after the War of 1812. The family kept the flag for many, many years after that. So if you have a flag at home, you like to have it flown, you bring it by the fort any day. And don't need to make an appointment. The Rangers will be glad to fly over the fort for you. It gives you a certificate that it's been flown to you. Anybody have any questions or anything?
Yeah. You said if Keys was actually 2 miles, that buoy they put out in the water just off the Key Bridge isn't the right place then?
No. Let me tell you how that came about.
They estimated that, I know.
Yeah, 1912, as they were preparing for the anniversary, the centennial, the leading citizens of Baltimore, the Society of War of 1812 and others, pinpointed that this is the site where it was. Walter Lord, when he came out with his book in 72, he pointed down here because that was the information that they had at the time. It kind of makes sense. But when you think about as the British Army are marching towards the Baltimore, Admiral Cockburn needs to be in contact with the Army in some way. So as the flag of truce vessel is coming up the river, being towed by the Admiral's warship, he's got Key and a State Department guy on board. So, but he can also keep in contact with the British Army as they're going up towards Baltimore. So actually, during the Battle of North Point, he is off Bear Creek, which is probably pretty much where the buoy is today. And but after the battle, the British, that's September the 12th. Now on September the 13th, the British have already moved on the outskirts of the city. The bomb ships are in place now 2 miles below the fort, and Key, the Admiral ship, are also 2 miles away. It's at that moment that the actual bombardment begins, when Key starts seeing the bombs bursting in there and the rockets red glare. So it's after that that he's released. He never comes to Fort McHenry in his lifetime. There's no reason for him to come to the fort. Nothing special about the place. But by Christmas of 1814, he has become Baltimore's first rock star. And there are 3 taverns in Baltimore, 3 liquid refreshment stands that changed their name to the Star Spangled Banner Tavern in honor of that. I have an article hopefully coming out on that cruise ship business. Any other questions?
How old is this flag?
1 year old. I know that because how bright red the red is. What happens is after a year, we'll have to get rid of it because the sunlight fades this to an orange. So once the colors start to fade, we get rid of the flag. Yes.
The flag itself, because I know it's real important in this country, it was carried afterwards during the Indian Wars. It really wasn't adopted as an official flag until like 19-something, wasn't it? The Army always carried it, but the federal government finally recognized it.
I've lost it, and Ed might catch me on this one, but I think it's there's an order out. It's like 1840, 41 period or somewhere around there. But I'll check that one out.
I saw something on TV about that.
Yeah, but you see these popular movies, The Patriot and other movies. You always see the American flag and the circle of the stars. There were flags like that. Yeah.
Scott, you might be thinking of the national anthem because that's in the 1920s
Oh,
and 30s.
1931, it was made the official national anthem of the
But
United
they had
States.
to think about the flag and about the soldiers, even though the soldiers carried it like during the Indian Wars after the Civil War. The Army didn't even recognize it as the official, they recognized it was a national flag, but it wasn't officially recognized symbol until like 1890 or something.
Yeah, there was an incident at the fort in September of 1861. I wasn't there, but Wallace and Ed were. The officials had arrested the commanding officer of Fort McHenry, held by the Union Army, ordered the arrest of the entire Mellon legislature.
Yeah.
Shut down the South newspaper, and one of the editors was Frank T. Howard, and he was arrested at his house at midnight. Walked down to Fort McHenry in carriage. The next morning, he walked out into the fort, and he saw the flag flying over the fort of 35 stars, which is a Civil War flag. And at that very moment, he realized what had happened. Not only had been arrested, but 47 years earlier, to the very hour, to the very day, his grandfather wrote the Star Spangled Banner. And they're all very aware of the circumstances that had changed in that brief 30, 40 era period. Here we had the flag of the country, but now it's been viewed by many Southerners as a flag of despotism. So, any other questions? Boss? Ed?
We're getting the picture from the window.
Oh, is that pull it tight, real tight.
Yeah.
She said 1 minute. She's gonna try to. She's
Okay,
trying to.
we need to move the flag closer to the fort in case she decides to jump.
I don't think I would do.
Scott,
Oh, yes.
according to Dr. Google, the Stars and Stripes was officially adopted on June 14th, 1777 by the Continental Congress.
By the Continental Congress, yeah.
So there's your date. Resolved that the flag of the United States be made of 13 stripes, alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white and a blue field, representing a new constellation. Act of January 13, 1794, provided for 15 stripes and 15 stars after May of 1795, and so forth and so on. So it was the official flag of the U.S.
Any other questions? Okay, she's not going to jump. Okay, she got it. Pull the flag real tight.
Oh, look.
Thanks, folks. Now, everybody on this side. Yes. Oh,
Hold up the flag.
okay. Everybody on this side and everybody on this side roll the first red stripe. Those of you in the blue just follow the red. Pull the flag real tight. Go to the white one. Go to the red one. Do this right the first time, I hope.
Y'all going too fast, so
Pull the
down
flag,
line.
pull the flag a little bit.
Yeah, I know, they're all in front of us, we're trying to catch up.
I am told these are on sale now at the gift shop. Go to the white stripe.
That won't fall.
You want one for the backyard?
Steal it. Go to the red one.
Watch that bump, that little thing there.
Okay, white. Whoa, 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 whoa! Stop. Of course not. I'm just kidding. The boys have come together.
I was waiting for that.
Keep all the two come together.
Alright, we were waiting for instructions.
You hold that hand over there. Father. You get that out.
It's like a clown car.
Yeah, you got a new job.
They were using all this things for
Now, what I need you to do, when you walk forward, give it to the lady of the house here, lady of the manor. And she's going to take the flag, go back and forth and put it in the bag. When you put the... You have to talk slowly to her, don't you? When you give her the flag, let go of it. Okay, it just goes back and forth.
Do you only take the flag out once a year?
I got 10 of these.
Yeah, it takes us all year to get it back in.
Now, we do have a wall flag.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to open that one, but it wouldn't open, so I
Within 3 days after the battle, this was printed and given to every soldier in the fort. And this is a facsimile, that means a copy. So you're welcome to have one of these if you like. And this is how people learned about the Star Spangled Banner. And I bought a whole stack of these. This is the Star Spangled Banner Trail, which Tarzan Heritage is a important part of, through over 600 sites on Maryland, D.C., and Virginia that talk about the Star Spangled Banner. And that's what this is all about. So you're welcome to have one of these. I don't have many left. I only got about 1 million left.
It wasn't really recognized later for like the Indian Wars when the soldiers started.
Ladies and gentlemen.